Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday morning to you, and welcome back to Morning Musings. Great to be back with you. Took a few days off last week. My wife and I celebrated our 55th wedding anniversary. We went to Wilburton, Oklahoma, to what is known as Robbers Cave State Park. Now, if you like places that is secluded, pardon me, and that there's not tons and tons and tons of stuff to do, mind you, then that's a really good place to go. Absolutely beautiful scenery. They got a wonderful Clearwater Lake there, and it's really, really nice. But that's where we went on our honeymoon. Now, I won't go into all of the details of our wedding day. Let's just say it was really weird. Uh, yeah, we didn't get to the cabin until about 1 o'clock, and there was a humongous raccoon sitting at the door. This dude had done this before. He would not let us in. He would not leave. I would chunk a rock at him, and he would hiss and run at us. Make me jump back in the car. And so we're sitting there, unable to get into our honeymoon cabin. And finally, I remembered I had in the glove box a bunch of cigars. I used to collect cigars from people who were getting married, had a child, got a new job, et cetera, et cetera. And so I unwrapped a couple of them, and I told my wife, I said, tell you what, you get the key. I said, I'm going to get out of the car. I'm going to run off out in the woods a little bit, shaking, shaking these cigars. And if he follows me a little bit, I'm going to toss him out into the woods. You get out of the car and go to the front door, unlock it, hold it open for me. Well, lo and behold, he did it. He followed me. We managed to get into the cabin. Okay. And then my wife was going to go in and take a shower, right? All of a sudden, I hear this blood-curdling scream, and I run into the bathroom, and there is this wad of granddaddy long legs, this big, at the water heater and down in the tub. Needless to say, nobody took a shower that night. That was our first night of being married. Quite an adventure. Quite an adventure. So, nonetheless, 55 years later, we returned to the scene of the crime and really had a good time. Uh, Unfortunately, before we even left, my back had come out, and I'd gone to the chiropractor very quickly. And I mean, it was out bad, really bad. After we were down there, it came out again. I was able to lay on a towel, rolled up towel, went back in a little bit, came back, and I got to tell you this morning, it is out again. Really, really bad. It's just not any fun at all. Nonetheless, all right, great to be back with you, and thank you so much for all of the kind comments about happy anniversary. Appreciate that so very, very much. Uh, Look, my wife is truly the best thing ever happened to me, other than my relationship with the Lord. I had asked the Lord for a helpmeet. I needed someone to stand by me and to be what I needed. And she has been that and more. So it has been 55 years of a honeymoon. Really has. And it's just wonderful. For those who are in marriage relationships that are not rich and full and gratifying, uh, it's bad. I know. I've done lots and lots of marriage counseling. And in so many cases, if you're in a situation like that, you can improve it. Okay? Swallow your pride. Find a way to rekindle the love that you had for that person that caused you to marry them in the first place. Communicate again. never, ever, ever stop saying, please, and thank you, and I love you. Never go to bed angry. That way you won't wake up angry. Okay? Okay. Off my soapbox. All right. We are continuing our study then of the feast days of Israel. We've been focused on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement. Now, the Day of Atonement was called the most important feast in all of Israel's calendar. Pardon me. Because on it, the sins of the nation were removed and God did not hold them against them. And so this was the key feast. And I've been sharing with you from Hebrews chapter 9 how the writer sets forth Yom Kippur as a typological foreshadowing of the atoning work of Jesus Christ. Now, I have to tell you, in a way I wasn't surprised because I'd encountered this before. In a way I am surprised. I had asked the question, when do you believe? When do you believe that the atonement was consummated? Was it at the moment of the cross, when Jesus died? Father, into your hands I commend my spirit. Or was it when he ascended into the most holy place, Hebrews 9:24, there to appear in the presence of God for us? Or was it when he would come back out for salvation? Now, as I just mentioned, sometimes it amazes me of how vehemently people say, oh, atonement was finished at the cross. Now, I've been labeled as heretic because I deny that. Or at least that's one person say, well, I never called you a heretic. I said that what you teach is heresy. Oh, so according to this person, I teach heresy, but I'm not a heretic. What kind of a semantic word trick is that? Whatever. Anyway, you see what I mean when I talk about argumentum ad desperatum by people? But that's just the tip of the iceberg, mind you. So anyway, the question is, when was the atonement consummated, completed? Was it at the moment of the sacrifice? Some people have told me, well, Jesus on the cross said, it is finished. Was he talking about the atonement? Or was he talking about Passover? Now, I've shared with you that in Hebraic thought, there was a mixture of concepts of both atonement and the Passover. Just as there was an admixture of atonement with all of the sacrifices. Listen, go to Bible Gateway and in the search bar, just type in Mech Atonement. And you're going to get 2.5 pages of results. And what you will find is that the sin offering, the burnt offering, the peace offering, virtually almost every single sacrifice they made, with a few exceptions perhaps, it was said that they offered that to Mech Atonement. Well, hey, if they made all of these sacrifices on all of these other feast days to Mech Atonement, then why did they have a separate Day of Atonement? That's got to be answered. This is a legitimate question. Furthermore, when I pointed out to individuals, this happened 2 weeks ago, a couple of different times. When individuals said the atonement was finished at the cross, it's wrong to say otherwise. Then I simply pose the question, if that's true, then did Jesus not have to go into the most holy place there to offer his life for us? I mean, let's be serious here. I know and I realize that in the first century, the Ark of the Covenant with the Hylasterion, the mercy seat, I realize the Ark of the Covenant was not in the most holy place. However, that does not mean that the high priest did not go into the most holy place on the Day of Atonement and sprinkle blood to the north, south, east, and west, as if the mercy seat was still there. Okay? So the point of it is, not until that blood was sprinkled on the altar, or at least in the place of the altar, not until that blood was sprinkled could there be any atonement whatsoever. And so a couple of different people have contacted me privately and said, never really thought about that. That's a really good point. One individual who initially claimed I was a false teacher changed his view on that. He didn't tell anybody he changed his view until I pointed it out. And that's pretty radical change. But he said, no, it's not really much of a change at all. But he refused then to acknowledge that Christ coming out of the most holy place for salvation was related to atonement. Ladies and gentlemen, why was the sacrifice offered in the first place? Oh, to make atonement. To do what? To make at-one-ment. To bring God and man together. Reconciliation through forgiveness. No, they did not have legitimate, objective, true forgiveness under the old covenant. Why? Because the blood of bulls and goats can never take away sin. Hebrews chapter 10, verse 2 through 4. But they went through those sacrifices in order to obtain provisional, to use that term, forgiveness. And forgiveness is salvation. It is redemption, in whom we have redemption, even the forgiveness of our sin. Ephesians 1 verse 7. Same chapter. By grace are you saved through faith. Ephesians 2, 8, and 9. You see, all of these terms, while some of them have different nuances to them, are by and large synonyms. So forgiveness, atonement, redemption, reconciliation, etc., are all synonyms for salvation. And so, why was the high priest to come out of the most holy place? And remember, ladies and gentlemen, the high priest had to come out of the most holy place, and specifically Jesus was going to come again, apart from sin, out of the most holy place for salvation, to bring salvation. Well, if he's going to bring salvation at his parousia, then that means that salvation was not a reality, certainly was not any kind of an applied reality until the parousia. Oh, but wait. All of a sudden, those who take the view that the atonement was finished at the cross, oh, but wait, then they changed that and said it was finished at the ascension. They now tell us that the salvation of Hebrews chapter 9, verse 28 had nothing to do with atonement. It had nothing to do with forgiveness. It had nothing to do with, quote, spiritual salvation, unquote. Oh, no, no. It had to do with physical deliverance from the Neronian persecution. Physical deliverance from the war of AD 66 to 70. Or it did have to do with being reunited with loved ones who had passed on. In other words, and they believe that this took place at a literal rapture of believing human beings in AD 70. So, for salvation is completely redefined, separate and apart from, divorced from atonement. It is divorced from forgiveness. It is divorced from reconciliation. It is, in fact, divorced from the entire context of Hebrews chapter 9 and the discussion there of the Day of Atonement. All of a sudden, the Day of Atonement disappears. And the reader is supposed to know that now he's not talking about atonement anymore. He's talking about physical deliverance from the Neronian persecution, physical deliverance from the war of 66 to 70. Or it's talking about the rapture, none of which are mentioned in the text. We are supposed to read that into Hebrews 9, verse 28. That's what you call eisegesis. I'm out of time. We're going to look closer at this idea. What is this salvation of Hebrews chapter 9, verse 28? Was it physical deliverance from war, Neronian persecution, rapture? The answer to that is clearly no. So I'll see you on the flip side.